Hey, fellow film buffs, it's Englentine here for Xtreme Movie Show, and this time on Top 10 Tuesday, we're going to be talking about John Hughes. Now, my friends here, they talked about Uncle Buck specifically, and you should watch that, and I wish I was part of it. It's an amazing film. But with me to talk about some John Hughes, we have Rob Classic and the real Dr. Venkman, except no substitutes. Did Rob take a break?
He might be robotic. I'm not sure for him, but it's fine.
All righty. Okay. So I'm sure he'll say hello when he bounces back. So anywho, like I said, I am a huge Uncle Buck fan. We're going to be doing things a little bit different, though. We're going to be doing almost like we're almost going to be doing them from a kicking it kind of point of view. We're not just going to go down a list. I want to talk about these things because when you're an 80s kids like me, like Rob was, John Hughes is a part of life. You could say he kind of helped to form. He was so present in theaters in the 1980s, not only with what he directed, which he directed 8 films there, but with what he wrote. As you pointed out, Mr. Mom, that's a huge film. That's a movie I remember seeing on HBO. It was on HBO like it was the only film HBO was allowed to do at some point in time. He wrote the Vacation screenplay, which is one of the greatest 1980s films, hands down. Pretty in Pink was I think he wrote and directed that one. But so many great films written by John Hughes. I want to focus mainly on the directed ones. We can go off in the written ones, but of the directed ones, you guys both mentioned you didn't see Curly Sue. You didn't see She's Having a Baby. She's Having a Baby was okay. Probably my least favorite one. It was just because, like I said, all of them are schmaltzy, but this one tried to be way too serious and earnest as well, and I think it comes off as a little bit preachy. Curly Sue, yeah, that's probably the next it's got Jim Belushi. I don't know if that's gonna affect anybody's, but it was entertaining. But in all honesty, if I'm thinking about is it as memorable as the others, no, I'm sorry, it's not. It's not as horrible as you hear, but it's not as good as the other ones there. Alrighty, so hello to Jim Sorensen. What's up? Ed Brewer in the house. Bueller. So there you go. You with us again, Rob?
I am here. You're roboting and blanking out for me, but I hear you loud and clear now.
Okie dokie. Nice to have you back there. So, okay, you know what? There's 8 films. I don't know how you want to do. You want to go that he directed, but you want to talk about the ones he wrote as well?
I would just say do the ones he directed, and I don't know if you want to go in order, chronologically, and we just talk about each one a little bit.
Let's go on the ones chronologically. I brought up the 2 that a lot of people haven't seen. So let's go chronologically on that, and we'll start off with his first directed movie, and that is 16 Candles. Now, this one is a film that's getting a lot of blowback now. People are calling it a rape movie and all sorts of weird things like that. And I'm like, you have not seen the movie if that's what you think. It's like the Well Actually people took a left turn and missed Albuquerque. They are just nowhere near getting the point of 16 Candles. But Rob, you were there. You're the oldest of us. Tell me what was your first impression of 16 Candles?
Well, to me, I like it. It's a film that for us, 9th grade was the end of junior high, not middle school.
Right.
So there's definitely the sense of going into something bigger, and the maturity levels that one year, such a big jump. It was one of the few films that to me, I thought captured what it was really like to be in junior high, looking forward to being in high school, where you didn't feel like, okay, everything's a high school movie, now you're going to be an adult. It really gave you that jump there of the different levels of, like, everybody who was 14 thought a certain way, then 15 generally was another. And that's how we thought of it in stages. And I thought John Hughes, by and large, captured that very well, those classes in his movies. So I think it's a lot of fun. I'm not too familiar with this rape blowback stuff you're talking about. I will simply say that the image conjured to me while you were describing that made me think, I wonder if John Hughes, of course, John Candy would have to star in it, did The Last House on the Left meet 16 Candles, what that would be like.
That would be
That's
awesome.
what I want to see.
That is a movie I never knew I needed in my life. That sounds great, man.
16 Candles is really good, really enjoyable.
Okay, how about you, Venkman? Because you came after. You're a video guy. You must have seen this on video at some point.
I skipped 16 Candles because it was a girls' movie.
Wait, you thought 16 Candles was a girls' movie?
By the cover and a description about her, and I just didn't care for Molly Ringwald.
You absolutely missed a funny freaking film. So no, I remember watching this, and I saw it with my parents. And the funny, like Rob says, junior high, not middle school. I got to admit, of all the characters, I identified more with Farmer Ted than anybody else. The Anthony Michael Hall character. He seemed to be this little guy in the sea of big guys. As Rob could contest, it took me a while to get that growth spurt. And I absolutely did. I identified with his character a lot more, except for the floppy disks. I was not the computer guy. It was funny as hell. And I remember they were laughing. My parents were laughing at things that I was like, okay, when I'm older, I got to come back to this to see what I'm missing. And it was so freaking funny. One of the things that John Hughes does here that he's really good at is writing the extremes of clickism. Of course you have your jocks, your nerds and all that, but he would take it to the next level where it's almost an absurdist humor. It's almost prison-like, where, the whole thing, you always see it in high school movies. It depends on where you sit in the lunchroom or something like that. But he takes that to new levels in this one. Some excellent scenes. One of my favorite is a very sincere scene between Anthony Michael Hall and Molly Ringwald, is just when they're sitting down and they're talking about the different pressures that they had on each other just by being themselves, which is also something touched on another movie we're going to be talking about in a little bit. An incredibly funny film, a movie that would never be made today. Think about all the things that were put into that movie. I mean, you have a nude scene when they're like, why are you thinking about Samantha? You've got Carolyn and she is a woman. And then you hear boom, and it's a close up on boobs. You'd never have that today. They dropped an F-bomb when he's like, I can't believe they forgot my birthday. It's just a lot of stuff you would not. Oh, the abortion pill. No, the birth control pill being shoved into Farmer Ted's mouth. A lot of stuff that would never be put today. And of course, the ending where the popular girl wakes up with Ted and she's like, I don't remember any. Did I enjoy it? And that's what everybody's talking about. Like the popular girl got raped, except for she wasn't the one that forgot about it. He was the one that didn't know they did it. So back the F off on all of that stuff. So yeah, I don't think that deserves it at all. I skipped 16 Candles because when I heard about the premise, it didn't interest me, says Moran.
See? Thank you, Marania.
Well, she didn't say because it's
everything except her is, and she's not bad, but who really likes a teenage woman, girl? Seriously, they're insufferable.
Teenage boys.
Apparently, Anthony Michael Hall did.
Yeah,
I'm just saying, there's plenty in this movie where it's not. I wouldn't call it a girl's film. Is what I'm saying.
Oh, not at all. Not at all.
You'd almost say it's a guy's film, really. You just, they start off with her.
Yeah, she is the bland part of the movie.
But
honestly, she just goes from scene to scene saying, they forgot my birthday, while everybody else does stuff around her. The offensive Asian stereotype is far more interesting to watch than the lead character. Farmer Ted, the parents, the grandparents are a lot more entertaining. Everybody around her is entertaining. But you're right. She is the least interesting character in the movie. That is true. It really is more of a guy's film than Let On. Anyway, but say again.
I was just going to say, touching on all his movies, I never really thought about this until I started thinking about it. I'm like, all his movies center around. There's always one, like the car is like the star of the movie.
There are some cars that are
The Rolls Royce 16 Candles, the Ferrari and Ferris Bueller's Day Off. He's got the station wagon from Planes, Trains, and Automobiles. All his movies kind of have a main awesome car. Like if you think about it.
Well, in the teenage ones, you know, that was the thing because it represented at the time freedom. So you could like go to the mall and actually go on dates and actually have the opportunity to have relations. You know, really.
My kids have they're like 25. They have no interest in learning how to drive even now. Like, how is that possible? When we were young, it's like, let's get into that car and out of here as quick as freaking as soon as we can. But yeah, it is a lot different. But you're right.
I didn't get my license until I was 19 because I was bicycling everywhere. I was like, why wouldn't I pay for gas when I could just bicycle everywhere? You know, get cheap.
Okay. A little bit different. I remember the first time I got out there and I got the car and we had it. We were finally. I picked up all the friends. We're gonna go do our little party, whatever it was. And the first thing I did after picking up everybody was take a left turn right into the wrong lane. I remember. Oh yeah, absolutely. I was like, yeah. And my friend Dave, he was like, dude, I think you're on the wrong side. I said, no, I'm fine. Right. And finally he's like, nah, I think this is supposed to be, he points to the island. This is supposed to be on the other side of us, man. And sure enough, here comes some cars. We're like, yeah.
I had a buddy who did that. I was following it. He's coming up pulling out. I'm like, where is he turning to? I'm like, oh, he's pulling the wrong direction. I'm like, well, good thing I'm not in his car.
Yeah. Yeah, fun times. Cruising in the T-Bird, soon to be a Gremlin. It was a lot of fun. All righty. So, okay, if you were to give this 1 to 5, you know how it is. Horrible, bad, average, good, and excellent. What would you put 16 Candles? Rob, obviously it's got to be you.
Well, I'm
in
going to
the comment section.
Okay. I was probably going to say a 4. Yeah, I mean, it's. I mean, a 5 is the best. I don't know how you're. Yeah. Okay.
Oh yeah. 5 is.
It's very good. It's above average.
4? Yeah, I would put that as a 4 as well. I just really like this film. The second one, John Hughes directed, and we are sticking with directed films here, not the written or anything. We're just going to go with directed. Was The Breakfast Club. And I'm with The Breakfast Club. You know what? No, I've got to tell you, I've shown this to my kids, their friends, and it is timeless. This movie. Now, you may grow out of it a little bit, but this movie never ages. Once again, it's the cliques just kind of blown to great proportion, but the thing is that really does exist. Maybe they've changed a little bit, and maybe it's not as violent or something, but that really does exist. And something I found out, if you show it to that new breed of teenagers or new brood of teenagers that come out, they can find something in that movie to relate to. That isn't it. I think it's an incredible film, great dialogue, and it really is a dialogue movie. It's a bunch of talking heads, basically. Yeah, they've got the scene where they run around and they dance, but it's basically a room full of people just sitting there talking.
This is the movie that opened me up to Emilio Estevez and Judd Nelson.
Yeah. And it's really the only Judd Nelson film that really stuck. And you don't have to work around his last name too much. If you really want to identify him, just go Emilio, and everybody knows who you're talking about. All right, what do you think, Rob?
I think this movie is very watchable. It's a very verbal film, like you said. That being considered, I consider it a miss because there's something about it that just doesn't click. And I don't know if it's because some of the characters that we're watching for most of the movie, the teenagers, some of them aren't likable. And it's not that you don't feel for them or have some empathy for their situations and stuff, but it's just, I had mentioned before, one thing about John Hughes movies is that, you know, they're cutesy and they're nice, but sometimes there's a dark thing to it. And there's a little bit of that with the talking in here. I like it a lot. I'm not saying I don't rewatch it, but I somehow think 16 Candles is probably just a bit better, maybe because it's a bit more positive. This Breakfast Club's a bit of a darker film, I think, just with some of the things in it. And I will say this, watching it and just the fact that, you know, 78% of the time they're there in that one spot for detention, it's like, it reminds me of our junior high that we went to, which of course has been destroyed and rebuilt. But for some reason, it reminds me exactly like our library, and it's really creepy. The more I watch it, the more I feel like I'm back in junior high. It really does a good job of that, even though it's a high school film. But it's a good film. It's definitely worth watching. No doubt about it.
The funny thing is this is not an adult's point of view. We saw this together. Rob and I saw this movie together, and we saw it with
other people.
My brother and a guy I really did not like. Now that I'm bigger, if I ever met him, I would like to hit him just for being him 40 years ago. That's how much I didn't like him. You know who I'm talking about, right? CG.
No, huh?
CG.
Say.
Yeah, I don't know if you want to name that. Oh, fuck it. No. It's 40 years ago. Chuck Glover.
Oh, yeah.
Just, you know what? Bam. That would be nice.
He'll probably listen to this one day.
Oh, really? Maybe so. But, dude, I remember even in the car, we were talking about it, and you still brought up some of those things. Like I was way into it. I thought it was excellent from the beginning. At one point, I've seen this movie so many times, I could quote it. I mean, from start to finish, I could quote this film. I've seen it so many times. So for me, it's amazing. I love the dialogue. I like the characters. One thing two things actually that I would change though. One of them, Miranya's bringing up, in order to become more accessible or more acceptable, they changed Ali Sheedy, pulled the hair back, made her pretty. Which I don't think they changed her, because obviously the way she acted with the patch, the whole 9 yards, she was still the crazy girl. But yeah, they sort of did. If you just clean yourself up, we'll like you more. But another thing, they kind of touched upon it in the office scene with the teacher and John Bender, where you actually saw him as a scared kid.
Yes,
I think if they gave him more of those moments. Because a lot of times, he's a douchebag, but there's something under there, especially in some of the dialogue where he's talking about his home life. This is a guy who's giving because he gets. And if they showed a little bit more of that, not so much from a place of anger, but from a place of
he got dropped off, if his dad would have been like a total jerk off.
Yeah, it would have. I think it would have added a little bit more to the character, but that's a very small nit to pick in this film.
I mean,
how about you, Bankman?
I like this whole movie. Ali Sheedy's character here is like, there are people like that. I knew people in school are like that. They're kind of quiet, reserved, kind of judgy of other people. I say, like, this is a movie that I'll never be allowed to forget, because the song's always on every freaking station when they have 80s music on.
Yeah.
It's always the first song. Don't you forget about me.
Yeah, they can't have an 80s night without playing that song.
Go ahead, Doctor.
I was gonna say, like, I've maybe watched this movie 2 or 3 times, but since then it's kind of like I grew out of it.
Okay. No, I think that's understandable too, because you sort of, and that can happen with any John Hughes film, because you start to see the flaws, because the high school bullshit sort of just melts away from your as you grow older, and you start to see, you know what, that kid was like this because really,
and the reason I say grow, because it's not Uncle Buck and it's not Planes, Trains, and Automobiles. Those are like more adult humor. This is like a bunch of spoiled kids, it's a teeny bopper thing. It's like the Brat Pack. Well, I got over the Brat Pack fast, because that's all it was.
I don't know if this is teeny bopper, but
it is. But here's the thing, to play on what you said there, E, because it's the answer Maranya, who I think knows the answer, obviously, and it's when you're more attractive as a woman, you're perceived to have more value. That's why everybody makes a big deal out of it, especially when you're younger. That's just the way it is. And I agree with Maranya in that you didn't necessarily need to do it. But we as guys growing up, we knew when a girl came in, all of a sudden she changed her hair. She was looking for a guy, and still true as an adult, and just her whole look, because she was trying to get noticed. But what I didn't like about this movie too is they didn't need to do it because she was quirky enough to be attractive in her own way. We know that. But also, and this sounds like a nitpicky thing, the scene where they're having lunch and it shows what class they're from, and she pulls out the sushi. I had never heard of it, didn't know what the hell it was. I was like, man, that's not a burger. How's that going to fill her up? Oh, she's a skinny little white girl. And that sushi to me, even though I love eating it today, it's fantastic. Love it, especially when it's it's fantastic. I didn't have sushi until I was probably 30 years old and paid a lot for it. And it was supposed to be really good stuff. What? And it seemed so snobby to me of her. Well, I've got mine. I'm going to mix it with my soy or whatever she had there with it. Oh, and I'm going to pretty you up because you need to be, because, if you want to be a real girl, this is what rich white girls do. So Maranya, I'm agreeing with you despite what I said about the sexual attractiveness part to it. But those little things like that, as an adult that I watched, I just, they pop out to me more. So yeah.
This movie, I never really cared for Maya Ringwald. I just didn't like her character, and I don't know, it just kind of irked me the wrong way. Just watching her, I would have loved to have Diane Lane instead of Maya Ringwald.
Everybody would love to have Diane other than Molly Ringwald.
Ding, 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 ding.
She's a better actress. Molly Ringwald, she was the actress of the 80s, but I really thought Diane Lane, if you go back to The Outsiders and such, that was the beginning of her. But the thing is by the time you're at the Breakfast Club, Diane Lane is a teenager. Yeah, you're pushing it. You're really pushing it. Beautiful woman, just a little bit too old to be in the Brat Pack. So, but for me, I've got to say it's this is top notch John Hughes right here. I think this is a film that we grow out of, but it is a timeless film for that new set of teenagers. If that makes any sense, it can be timeless and timely. The movie isn't, it's timeless, but it is for a specific demographic, if that makes any sense whatsoever. So Rob, you're saying 3, huh?
Yeah, it's I'm comparing it to 16 Candles, and it's like I just think 16 Candles is a bit better. Breakfast Club is still good. It's still watchable. It's, like I said, got some hit and misses with it too, but overall it's a very good film. And I think for some reason everybody says this is the John Hughes film, which I disagree with. It's good. It's solid.
Okay. See, I would say that, but once again, I think.
Which one would you rather watch, 16 Candles or Breakfast Club? For me, it's 16. Okay. Yeah.
Venkman, how about you? What would you put it at?
I give it a 3.
A 3? All right.
I would have hired. They would have Christian Slater as instead of Judd Nelson.
Christian Slater was like 12, so I mean, you're like going too young and too old.
I'm saying I would have waited to actually make this movie. Actually,
make the movie for Christian. That Supergirl. She's got a little brother. When he gets of age, I'm going to make this movie.
Yep.
So Ed was saying 4 for 16 Candles, 5 for Breakfast Club because it's better than 16 Candles. 5 for Breakfast Club from Maranya as well. We've got a 3 from Rob, a 3 from RDV. I'm obviously going 5 on this one. But that's not to actually, there's a lot that was being said by Rob there that I absolutely agree with. It's just, I think that's the way the ball bounces on this film. Next up is a movie that we talked about a little bit before. It's Weird Science. When this is the oddball. This one is actually a comic book movie. It's based on an EC comic book of the same name. Issue number 5 has a story in it. I forget what it's called, but it's basically they build a woman, and in this one you have 2 high school kids that are losers, played by Anthony Michael Hall. Again, he plays the nerd. And I forget the other guy. I've got to look this up.
real quickly, I'll just say that Christian Slater, in my defense, was 16 years old at this time.
Okay. Yeah, but Judd Nelson was 40, so I guess they needed somebody who looked a little older so they could say that. Yeah, Christian Slater would actually be the only high school kid in that room. So the other kid was Ian Mitchell Smith, and they decide that they're going to be building a woman played by Kelly LeBrock. And she somehow ends up having magical powers. It's a very strange freaking film. Let's start with you this time, Venkman. Did you see this movie?
Yes, and it was actually one of my favorite movies to watch for a while.
Okay.
Growing up. Not because the Killer Black was hot. I mean, that was a bonus, but I love the jokes in here. Anthony Michael Hall, that was like the first time ever seeing him in a movie.
Really? So you saw this one before the others?
Yeah.
Okay.
Remember, I went to Blockbuster. I watched these all on VHS, man. I was not watching these in theaters like you guys.
Right.
Or working in a movie theater and watching. So no, this movie I enjoyed it. It's still a guilty pleasure for me to watch it. And I love Oingo Boingo's song in here, Danny Elfman.
Weird Science, Look Alive. That one, yeah.
I mean, this is like every like teenage kid's like, dude, like high schooler, like you're a loser. Like, wait, now you got this hot baby, and I would have acted just like Anthony Michael Hall. Yeah, I'm gonna show her up and like, show up the other guys, same thing. Now, the whole thing with him going into the bar and, like, smoking a cigar, I'm like, now that's a little far-fetched. I don't think I'd want to try cigars. That was a little, for me, but, like, But I thought it was funny, though, like, because how many guys, like, went around and put bras on our heads and try to do this crap,
Nobody I know. Why are you asking? Stop grilling us. Anywho, let's get off the subject. Off the subject, hurry.
The grandparents locked inside, and they open the door like they're frozen. And he's like, "What do you do to them?" It's like it's so creepy.
Yeah,
you got the bikers, like, and then she's doing whatever she can. I mean, to help them. Like I said, this is another weird moral story of the thing. Be who you are. She's like, why can't you just be you? You don't have to impress anybody. It's like that was the whole thing. As being far-fetched as this was, it had an underlying story, and that's what John Hughes films. They were morals, and it's like I said, like Uncle Bug. We talked about that.
John Hughes is a morality play. How about you, Rob? Did you see this in the theaters or when it got to video? And
I thought I saw it with you. Honestly, don't recall because
we saw it at the Northgate. I think
it's a weak effort to me. I don't like it. I think the premise is great. I think every guy in his right mind, if he had a shot at something like that, last half a stroke and be trying to do it 20 times like a rabbit, but they play it the safe way. And halfway through, when it gets really kind of silly and ludicrous, it kind of loses me. I don't mind it for juvenile antics, but it's just really not. It's just too whitewashed for me. I mean, I think one of the things that the people are mentioning in chat, I got a comment on is in the 90s, for the most part, I was working graveyards, and when I came home, there was a show on and it was Weird Science based off of it. And I remember going, it's a bit better than I thought it would be, and it had a little bit of legs for some time because it's, I think, on USA, kind of like Parker Lewis, Can't Lose. And I was glad it was there. It made me rewatch the movie. But yeah, the movie just doesn't seem to work to me. It's not Anthony Michael Hall. Maybe it's the other guy. It just, out of the three, it's by far the weakest effort. It's a 2 for me. It's just not fun. It's not bad. It's harmless. It's, like I said, probably better than some of the stuff that's out there today, but it just, I don't know, it doesn't do anything for me. It's like it starts to be one movie and then just cowards its way out, I guess.
I was going to go there when I was talking about it. See, first of all, let's talk about something nobody's brought up, and it is absolutely a freaking brilliant part, and I'm not going to say it, I'm going to say he. This is the first time we really get a look at Bill Paxton.
I was going to bring it up, but you guys are still going.
Yeah, Bill Paxton, man, is he just owns this film, man.
He's Chet.
Seriously, he plays Chet. He was the guy who, from all the stories, it was his idea to give him the flat top. He came in he actually asked, "Can I cut my hair?" And the guy says yes, and he was expecting a regular haircut. He comes in this flat top, and he's like, "Whoa, hold on a second." And I think the flat top just helps. I just think the flat top helps nail this character.
Well, back then too, it was the thing to identify somewhat in a military way, whether it was wearing fatigues a little bit, combat boots, some combination, or having a flat top. And there were definitely people that were like that at that age, and it works for him in the role in the movie. You're absolutely right.
He is, in my opinion, he is the best part about this movie.
He was such a jerk though, Wyatt though. Well, because they were nerds. He's like, "What are you guys doing here? You guys like, gay or something?" He's the typical older stereotypical brother in Hollywood. He's always a guy you picture him like, look at the Wonder Years, same thing. Picked on Fred Savage all the time.
Yeah,
that's your job. You got to test the Owen to make sure he's brought along.
And one of my favorite lines in a movie that I still quote today: "How would you like a nice
greasy pork sandwich
served in a dirty ashtray?"
And then he just kind of like snorts. And then he kicks the door with his back foot.
He goes just a freaking perfect laugh. He's an asshole. Anyone with a haircut like that, he's an asshole.
I like here's Chad thinking he's tough. You're like, hey, how's it going, Kelly Brock?
You die. Bill Paxton makes this film seriously all through that. Yeah, Nanny, you guys are sick. Oh yeah, I really do. I like Bill Paxton in this film. Absolutely agree. We talked about this before with Weird Science, that it begins as one movie and then it goes so far out into left field, and so that to some it could be a strength. That it does take that turn. It's willing to go there, but it just the dude from Road Warrior and the dude from Hills Have Eyes recreate their roles from Road Warrior and Hills Has Eyes in this teenage comedy. And they do a good job for it, but it just, you're right. It seems like it's two different movies.
This is where I got my first love for Kelly Brock, and then she went off with Seagal in Hard to Kill.
Yeah.
And then I said, "You're tainted."
Oh, and we've got a Friday the 13th girl as well in this one. The person who played Hilly was the young lady who got killed in the boat in Friday the 13th Part 4, right up through the stomach. So yeah,
you're talking about Hilly Suzanne Snyder, right?
I guess.
No. Judy
Aronson. Yeah. She gets the spear right through. I remember the goop being poured on pictures in the first try, showing up as half a person. That creeped me out, says Maranya. The first half was great. The rest was okay, says Jim. The movie is mean. I saw Weird Science on network TV, and that's what you guys were talking about as far as that. How about you, Venkman? He gives it a 2. Where would you put this?
I still give it a 4, man.
You give it a 4?
Despite everything, it's Bill Paxton, and you got Killer Rock, man. Anthony Michael Hall was great in this too. I kind of identify with Wyatt at that time too. It's like, I have an older brother. I used to get picked on. Not to that severity, but it was, he's like, you got a buddy. He's like, "Hey, let's do this." I'm like, "Nah, dude, I don't want to do that. I'll get in trouble." That was me. I was Wyatt, and then until I realized, it's like. I said, I learned a lot of stuff from these movies. It's like,
I have a cousin who was my Wyatt. I used to call him my Ethel because I was the one with the weird ideas, and he would always go along with it. I thought he always went along with it just to see what kind of crazy shit I would get into, so he could just stand there and laugh. Maranya saying she put it at 3. So is Ed Brewer. I'm going to go 3 also. I think it's a fine film. And I think for the first half, when, they're at the mall, they're feeling content, the whole 9 yards. I think it's cool seeing Robert Downey Jr. as the villain in there. Nightmare on Elm Street guy too, who was also in Trashin'. Yeah, that's right. He was in Vamps too with Grace Jones. Yeah, that's right.
Robert Russler was in here too. Yep.
Yeah, good times. All righty. So what do we have here? What is next on the whole John Hughes train. I kind of went off script here. So, no. Next up, Ferris Bueller's Day Off. Oh, let's see. Oh man, I don't want to start with me. I want to start with somebody positive. Venkman, what did you think of Ferris Bueller's Day Off?
Well, it had Beatles songs in it. It's really helped the music. And this is John Hughes. He put the music he loved into his movies. He didn't care what anybody else says. Oh, this won't sell. No, he's like, I want this song for this movie, and it panned out for him because you get the whole thing, shaking it with
twist and shout. Well, shake it up, baby, twist and shout.
Yeah.
Yep.
Like I said, the Ferris Bueller's Day Off. I like this.
Okay.
This is like every kid's dream that ever wanted to skip school. This if only this was real, I would have loved to hear like he's doing the keyboard, the coffee noises playing on it. It's another thing where they also show it to kids. The kids are not smart as they think they are. Like an Uncle Buck, the teenage daughter thinks like, oh, I don't need anybody's advice. You look at like, well, and the Furious is like, well, I know it's fine. Just put in reverse. It'll take the miles off the car. It's like it doesn't work that way. But you get to see Mr. Rooney. This is the first time I've ever seen him, the actor. I forgot his name is real life. But I think he did Howard the Duck. Came after this.
Yeah, he did. He did Howard the Duck. Yeah.
We didn't do Howard the Duck, but he was.
Oh no, that's why that was a deleted scene from Howard the Duck, where Jeffrey Jones is. No, anyway, go on ahead. This was one of my favorite movies to watch growing up. I was always a Matthew Broderick fan too, more so than Anthony Michael Hall and Matthew Broderick was the man in the 80s. He had some good movies. This is the top of it. Of course, me and Rob were more introduced to Matthew Broderick through War Games than anything else.
And then you also get what's his name in here too is Alan Cummings.
No,
Alan Ruck.
Again. Alan Ruck. Yep.
Sorry, but now Alan Ruck, he's basically just like who's his name? Callan? Was his Cameron? That's what his name was.
Yep.
He's I never had a friend like that. He's just like, I hate my life. Just let me die. I'll never go to school. It's like I've never really knew anybody that was like that. I mean, maybe that was more popular, or maybe I don't know where that stereotype came from. I mean, obviously he felt rejected by his dad. His dad cared more about his car than that. It's didn't have a girlfriend. So I mean, I guess that happens more than we know about. Maybe I know it sure happens more now today because technology and people just click more clicks. Clicks were really popular back in high school, but apart from all of that, I like this character. I love the way that Ferris has basically just got him to open up and he can teach him, hey, you know what, dude, we're young. Live your life. Quit worrying about crap.
The one thing that this movie does do well, and I think you're getting close to, is that friends can affect friends. I don't know what I would be like had I not met Rob, or what he would have been like had he not met me. What were the what are the ways we affected? I never heard a kid, by the way, say the F word before I met Rob. There were limits to the swearing, and then I met Rob, and then it was like no limits. So that was just one of the ways he affected me. I think that happens. Like on the outside, there is no reason why Cameron and Ferris Bueller should have been friends. They just don't seem to be like those people should have ever been in, except for the fact that at some point in time they became friends.
I think what it was, he kind of he noticed he's an outsider, and Ferris being the way he is, he kind of realized, he had a heart. He saw how this kid is, I don't know, maybe they were friends before this movie. I don't, as far as the characters, I don't know the backstory, how they met. That would have been fun to see, get backstory. Hey, or just a little line. Hey, well, we said she's through kindergarten, but the way he helped Cameron get out of his rut was like I said, this is your uplifting kind of movies. Like it just comes out from behind. If you've never watched John Hughes movies, it's like oh, it's just another silly comedy and stuff. And I'm like, no, there's actually a serious undertone to this and all. Cameron could have pretty much could have killed himself, and he almost did. Remember, in the pool.
Well, then that could be the thing. Ferris Bueller was the person who kept Cameron, from being absolutely depressed. He was the person that gave him release, or he felt like he could have that release while he was near his friend Ferris, while Cameron was somebody who could ground Cameron was somebody who could ground Ferris at least that much more. Not that it was shown here, but in all honesty, if you watch the movie from the beginning, this is a last ditch effort. This is a, oh my gosh, my life is spiraling kind of thing in Ferris's point of view. A lot of people think, well, Ferris is going to be fine. This is a guy who's going to go places. If you think about the day that he had and the reasons why he did it, he might not, because this is somebody who was, his girlfriend was going off to college. Things were changing. He was afraid to face his responsibilities. So instead of going to school, instead of doing what needed to be done, he went all out to do everything to not think about it. I know we're talking about this movie far deeper than it probably deserves, but there you go. Rob, what do you think about this movie?
Just a couple of points, because I agree with a lot of what you guys are saying. I don't like this film as much as maybe some others. That being said, I do think it's a very good film. The main problem is I just, growing up, I have a tough time, just going, why should I feel sorry for these whiny ass rich folk? It never made sense to me, and it made the characters in a way very hard to associate with, I guess, if you will. And frankly, yes, the situations that they get involved in are really cool, and we did stuff like that too, and it's fun. So there's like the bromance thing going on, and the girl there, she was okay for what was going on. I think one of the biggest problems here is Matthew Broderick, which I love war games. I just think he's great as a heel. And to me, I don't like Ferris Bueller, the character. I mean, I like the situations they do. And yeah, Chicago, I mean, God, what a love letter to the city with what they do and everything. But I agree. It's a better movie than what I like for it. But again, pointing out the theme that Venkman just mentioned, there's, dark stuff in here, but I have a hard time, singing the song about robots, as Tommy Shaw would say.
Yeah.
It's hard to emphasize with them a little bit, but the angst stuff about the future and all that is what I like, not so much the woe was me, I'm a hypochondriac kind of character. And I'm nitpicking a bit, but it's big enough because that's the big prevalent thing to the movie that made it not as great as it could be or as fun. But that being said, I still think it's a very good movie. And the whole high school stuff's good. This feels like a high school film, and that I give them credit for that, going from junior high to high school with these films.
When I was watching these, I actually was 15, 16 years old when I was watching a lot of these movies,
Yeah.
So I could,
Oh, sure.
So I was watching the 90s, though. But I mean, even still then, it's like, I liked the people they actually chose, the people they got to play the roles, and it's written well. I mean, yeah, you could, and I like the fact that they had Charlie Sheen here of all people. At the precinct, just making flirty eyes with Jennifer Grey.
At the time, it was like, who? Because the only thing Charlie Sheen had done at that point was like The Wraith. Nobody saw that movie.
It's probably a girl, a number 100 and Coke line number 1,000.
Yeah, Marania's saying, correcting that it was he who was going off to college. Point being, yeah, he was losing stuff. Rob, you nailed it. I'm sorry, but there's a line in Ferris Bueller that when I was a kid, I really didn't notice it, but the more the older I get, the more I notice this kid's dude, just stop. You got a great freaking life. But right at the beginning, in my opinion, he loses you when he goes, I asked for a car, I got a computer. And it's like this freaking incredible system for the time, of course, but it's like, you whiny little brat. I'm sorry. I want to see the director's cut where Mooney catches him. I know this is an older person. I know it's because I'm an adult now. I just want to see that the director's cut where he had some sort of comeuppance for what he did. Otherwise,
I disagree. I have no problem with that. You guys just cranky old guys.
That's it. Yes. Okay, yeah. All right. You ain't young, 35. I'd gladly skip school to hang out with Stone all day.
Right?
Sloan all day. Yeah,
Best House on the Right, starring Sloane Peterson, and what?
This is my father here. Oh, they must be really close. They're French kissing.
Now, I could say I have skipped a few days of school in
A few.
in my school career. I went to school a couple of times. I know what skipping is like. So I know what it's like to say, you know what, let's go ride some roller coasters instead of go to school.
You know, he wanted a car, but he got a computer set, but he made use of the computers. Now he just let it sit there. He used it to hack the school so he could change his truancy.
I know, right?
Present.
Yeah, you know that every kid and their brother tried that at least once. Yeah. After that movie came out, I don't know. Like I said, this is the opposite of Breakfast Club. I think I think this actually is very much product of its time, and I don't know. Maybe it is that I grow up and I go, yeah, really though. It's not that good.
I'm so glad it was made in the 80s. Imagine if it was made today. The whole YOLO crap. YOLO.
Oh my gosh, that would suck. I don't want to have a whole movie of people yelling "YOLO Ferris" instead of "Save Ferris." I also will say this, because there are certain things that you can't unsee after certain things are brought up. One of the things I mentioned was the horses at the end of the last Star Wars film. They died. Sorry, gang. Now that you see them, you're going to say, okay, those horses are dead. The next one is at the end of the movie, Ferris Bueller, he's running through a yard and there's two sunbathers, and he goes back to this.
And he shakes
Ferris, forget about the fact that he was just talking about his girlfriend who he wants to, but that's not the thing. The thing is, if you look at the shadows, one, they're sunbathing at 5 o'clock in the evening, and the shadows are covering them. Like there's actual sun 5 feet behind them, but because they wanted the perfect shot, they have the sunbathers actually sunbathing out of the sun. So something to look at next time. All righty. So let's score this one up. Let's score this one up. Venkman, what would you give it?
Ferris Bueller's Day Off, I still give it a 4.
4?
Yeah.
Rob, where would you sit?
I'd give it a 4 as well.
A 4? I don't know, guys.
It's tough. 3 or 4 is where I was going to go, but I got to go 4 because it is a positive film, and like I say, despite not liking the characters or how rich they are,
you know,
it is kind of like the high school fantasy.
You convinced me of something. Just because I became a cranky old man doesn't mean I didn't like it when it came out. So I'm going to give it a 3.
You know what the other coup was? When Ferris is in the jacuzzi, his hair is dry in parts of the lip, but before he jumps into the pool, his hair's already soaked.
Yeah.
Take 2. Dry him off? Nah. Let's see. Maranya's saying, it just clicked for me. Broderick's movies have a connection, War Games to Ferris Bueller via the computer. Both leads were computer hacker types. Yeah, that's true. There you go.
He's also with the monkeys too. Remember that one? That was the one where he had the
Project X.
Yeah.
Project X. Yeah. Even with all his flaws, I would still call it a 5, says Moranya.
I was going to say, Ferris Bueller, he's a rebel in all his movies.
This
was your Bart Simpson versus Skinner movie. That's what it was.
There you go. Bart Simpson versus Skinner, the movie. Dun, dun, dun.
Don't have a cow, man.
I don't know where I would go with this one, though. Next up, we've got to talk about some planes, some trains, and some automobiles. Big lake. All right. You get that, right? Okay, that's right. It's that was from 16 Candles, but we're talking about some planes, trains, and automobiles. Do you mind? You guys mind if I go first on this one?
I just gotta say it. Those aren't pillows.
Those aren't pillows. It's now streaming on Prime, by the way. We had a discussion. What are the most 80s films? And this was my pick. And this is the number 1 film for 1989 for me. This is absolutely the best of both actors, best of John Candy, best of Steve Martin. It's funny, it's well written, it's got heart, it's intelligently written as well. If you were to ask me, this is the absolute greatest film John Hughes has done. There is not a wasted shot. There is not a wasted moment. that it is either pushing the story forward, letting us understand the characters a little bit more, making us laugh our asses off. And the one thing I will point to before I stop filleting this movie is that I do appreciate the fact that John Hughes and Steve Martin went to bat for the car rental scene, because that's the only scene that makes this an R-rated film. And it's got such heart, and it's so easy to watch. Families will watch it, forgetting the fact that there's one scene in the movie where he drops the F-bomb 10 times.
You know what's funny? The El Rancho hotel they go to.
Yeah,
I've driven past it lots.
Oh yeah,
it's in Green, Illinois.
Take a selfie with it sometime. I want to see that.
It's something. It's operating something else though, but yeah, it's real close to where I live, so it's funny.
You're gonna pretend your dashboard is a piano doing the mess around. Oh man, yes, I have done that, by the way.
But I'll say my favorite scene of the whole entire movie, it turns over and he sees John Candy as a devil laughing. Ha 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 ha.
Oh, that is absolutely fantastic. That whole setup, man. And when he's driving, you're going the wrong way. Oh, how does she know where we're going? Yeah, you're right. I love that bit. That is funny as hell. Rob, what do you think of this movie?
I liked it a lot. It's a movie that I actually don't watch. That being said, I think it's great. It's fantastic. We've talked about it a lot. I always looked at it more from the Steve Martin performance because, he played a bit more the straight guy. He was the one having to get somewhere. And I associated with that a bit more, I think. I like it. I think it's the adult version, as we were seeing his movies seem to get that way a little bit. I think it's very enjoyable. And it's one of those movies that I'm like, I might have to rewatch that again because I love Steve Martin, and we've been talking about John Candy lately, and I can't think of anything about the movie that I didn't like. And I think, being home for the holidays and trying to just be with family and that pressure you put on yourself for trying to get to where you need to be, I totally can associate with that as an adult. When I first saw it, not so much, but now I'm like, oh yeah, how time is precious and everything too. But yeah, it's another great film that works, and I'm going, man, John Hughes is really starting to hit his prime. He's not just let's deal with kids kind of writer or director or anything. Not at all. Yeah, good movie.
Here's something to check out and to watch. And if you guys, I watch it all the time, and every year at least for Thanksgiving. Plus, like I said, it's on Prime now, so you can just put it on anytime. If you pay attention to the background, like every place they stop, there's some sort of news story. And of course, it talks about the storm, and it talks about, and that's mainly what it is talking about. And you find out, had he waited and gone with his friend, he would have made it on time. I love the fact that they have that little background story going on. It adds to the layers of the movie. This is when I say this is a smartly written film, it really is. Right away. Now, of course, you see him running for a cab. He trips over a case. It's got things. You find out, okay, this is. It's John Candy's cab, but you get right away when you see the two leads sitting across from each other in the airport, you get every character moment you need. You get visually, without one word of dialogue, exactly who these guys are and how they are opposite and everything, because you have a very stoic Steve Martin. He's still got his hat on. He's still got his scarf around. He actually is taking off a little bit, and he looks across, and there's Dell. And he's reading a porn novel, and he's got his little cap on with just the vest and all that. And it is just visually, it's the best cues you could get to understand where these two stand and opposite. And that's the kind of thing. Those are the little touches I think that make this film absolutely freaking perfect. I did actually see an interview about that, Johnny, about the significance of the Bacon cameo.
He wanted to be, and actually
that is absolutely it. He just wanted to be in the movie, and John Hughes says, well, I've got a small part, and he put him in there. And then, of course, that paid off because he gets the next film. But we'll get to that in a moment.
Thank you for choosing to come to Marathon. May I help you? Yes. 17 freaking F-bombs within 60 seconds.
There you go. It's such a funny scene.
No one's ever topped that either.
I love this movie. I really do. It's there's one scene I always point out, another one that I point out to perfect dialogue. You could have said anything but it's when they're in the back of the truck and he said, "How cold? Or what do you think the temperature is?" And there's a pause, and he could have, if like anything else wouldn't have worked, but he goes, "Oh, 1," and it just nailed it perfectly. I think, oh, it's 0 or absolutely freezing or anything like that would have been too much.
Well,
just going 1.
I think it worked out because of the fact that they're frozen. It was rain a minute to process.
Yeah.
When you live up where I live, it gets down to below 0. It's just like you get the -20 wind chills sometimes.
Yeah, this is obviously you know where I'm going with this movie. This is a 5 to me. But my goodness, there, like I said, there is no wasted moments in this movie.
I never knew it was a Thanksgiving movie until I watched the ending. I'm like, wait, is it Thanksgiving? Wow.
Yeah, that's the whole point of it. He's trying to get home for the Thanksgiving holiday.
And I love the fact that John Hughes actually puts all his movies, and they're all in Illinois.
Yeah, well, he's from Illinois.
I understand that, you know. I just love it because, like, Chicago is a great landscape, you know, as far as, you know, the city and stuff, you know, and not many people appreciate it, you know, as far as, you know, is using it as a backdrop.
The school that all the movies are filmed at, he actually bought and turned into a movie studio, so he could film his high school movies in that school. He didn't have to rent one. They bought it and they made it into a little film studio. I do believe Home Alone was shot there as well. Uncle Buck, and I want to say Christmas Vacation, but I could be wrong about that one. No,
the other one was the other one we just talked about, Breakfast Club. Breakfast
Club was there. Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, my favorite John Hughes movie is Planes, Trains, and Automobiles. Says Happy Dinosaur 8000. How you doing? And how does he know what direction we're going in? One of the freaking funniest. I love that. I
love the officer pulls him over too. I forget what his name is, but he plays the brother in Michael McKean, who I forgot all about him until I watched Better Call Saul. he's in that movie. He plays the older brother.
Yeah,
and he's such a phenomenal character too. It's like me and my brother watched this last year, right around Thanksgiving before Christmas. We watched like through Vudo, so you get all the extra commentary. We watch all behind the scenes stuff, and I'm just laughing my ass off every time they do talk to John Candy or Steve Martin. They do the press conference every day. I'm just laughing because these guys are naturally funny, and they don't need anything ad lib, and you don't need a script. Just, you know, tell them this is the plot. Okay, we're good.
There's a line. There's a quote anyway from Gene Siskel, one of the greatest movie critics of all time. He said a movie has to be at least as interesting as watching the actors sit down and have a conversation. And this one definitely makes it. And you're right. That would actually be really cool too. Let's just turn the conversation, turn the camera on and watch John Candy and Steve Martin have a conversation. I think it would be good. So Rob, where would you put this film? What would you say?
This will be a disappointing grade because, like I said, only because I've not seen it in a very long time. But I think the floor as opposed to the ceiling for this grade, I'll give it as a 4 because I remember liking it. I think it was a very great film, very good film. If I watched it again, I might give it a 5, but I know that I liked it a lot. I just didn't have that benefit of watching it recently and 50 gazillion times, but liked it a lot. I always thought as a kid, oh, here's the movie I'll like as an adult. Maybe I wouldn't like the kid movies. That being said, here we are talking about them today.
Mm-hmm. How about you, Venkman? Where would you go with this one?
This is a 5, and this is actually my favorite. Hello.
Yeah, obvious. I've made that absolutely obvious that Planes, Trains, and Automobiles is my favorite of the John Hughes.
Steve Martin and John Candy together is great. It's like having Dan Aykroyd and John Belushi in Blues Brothers. Some actors are just great together.
And this was it, man. We're going to talk about another one. I know you guys talked about it, but
don't worry, I got this covered. Now, here, I'll start selling the shower curtain rings.
Oh, this makes you look at least 17, and those kids, they buy them up.
Steve Martin, I guess if you wouldn't have had Steve Martin in this, it probably wouldn't have been as funny. Is Steve Martin, the situational humor, playing off of like the gross John Candy. John Candy is so good at doing gross, like he kind of did in Uncle Buck. But Steve Martin's with it. He's a prim, proper guy. He's just, this is what I wanted from a movie, and this is what I got. And when I saw the follow-up, which is kind of a reboot with Robert Downey Jr. It's called Due Date, which is kind of the same presence,
Yeah, but
And
not nearly as good.
not nearly as funny as this, but man, it was still funny. You know why? Because that kind of script is great.
Well, dude, if you put Due Date and Planes, Trains, and Automobiles next to each other, I think it shows the difference between trying to be funny and just being funny.
Well, definitely.
That's not to say, look, Robert Downey Jr. is freaking hilarious. So is Zach Galifianakis, but they were trying to be funny. You actually could see the mechanisms working to become, but with John Candy and Steve Martin, it was effortless.
Sadly, John Hughes died in 2009 of a heart attack. I would have loved to see him more throughout the years. I would have loved to see him sit down and write the script for Due Date. That'd be great, because most people are doing reboots. But yeah, and then I just saw that his wife, she survived. She died this last year.
Oh, thank you for bringing Paula to this occasion.
Well, no,
Johnny is saying that finally sat down to watch it for the first time, and even the role for baby Matthew Lawrence, brother of Joey Lawrence of Blossom fame. There you go. The next movie is one that we got to admit, I'm the only one that saw it, and I don't remember too much about it. What I do remember is
can skip it.
I never really got into it. It's called She's Having a Baby. What I saw of it is it's a little bit sanctimonious. That's the word I was looking for.
How dare you, sir? How dare you?
And the last film that he directed was a movie called Curly Sue, another film that I was the only one who saw, which I think is a very sweet but forgettable movie starring Jim Belushi. If you get a chance, check it out. So we're going to end this night talking about a movie that you guys just got done talking about, but thankfully I'm here. Maybe I can add a little different perspective to it, and that is a movie I watch every Christmas. It's not a Christmas film, but I have to. I'm just compelled to put this on, and it stars John Candy. It's called Uncle Buck. And the only reason this isn't my favorite John Hughes movie is because Planes, Trains, and Automobiles exist. This is another one that is pure perfection. You want to talk about the perfect film, the perfect role, the perfect actor cast in the perfect role. It is Uncle Buck. Now, you guys, if you want to touch upon what you said earlier, or before I go off on more of a rant, please, by all means, what do you think of this one, Rob? Sum up, I guess.
Well, yeah, just my brief thing is that it is a good film to watch. I talked a little bit about what I call dark moments in John Hughes movies, because he's, in the 80s we talked about there's a lot of schmaltz in 80s level, but sometimes you get people that, the writing's good enough where if you look past it, there's some dark stuff going on or stuff that it's not intended. And John Hughes, I think, totally gets that. Liked it a lot. I think when he's dealing with the kids, it's pure magic. It's interesting how men and women are treated in this movie a little bit, but if you go back and listen, you'll hear that. Overall, I think it's a very good film to watch. I think it's very entertaining. It's, when you think about John Hughes movies, this one pretty much gets up there. I know as an adult, I see some things that maybe I wasn't aware of or didn't see as a kid watching it, and I do appreciate that. So that's one of the themes just about John Hughes in general. For the most part, you can watch it when you're young as a kid, but then as an adult. And of course, we've talked about Back to the Future before and how that's a great film. Same type of thing where you can watch it through the lens of different things, especially if you've gotten older. And just talking about it with Doctor here a little bit, very good film, very enjoyable.
Mm-hmm. How about you, Venkman? What did you say about this one?
I said it was phenomenal. It's just, I kept saying that I don't see no dark undertones. There's no one getting murdered in this. There's threats of murder, but it's a movie where you don't judge a person by how they look and past mistakes. People make mistakes, but he proved out to be the best thing for the children, because the mom, who was so out of touch with her kids, the dad, as Rob would say, is a simp. Even I hate that freaking word.
He's a little punk ass. And it's not even the B word, because he's not cool enough to be a punk. He's just
dad.
Yeah, the dad. With those absent '80s fathers or whatever, and the resort to having a cold Buck.
He wasn't really into it to even have a personality.
Right.
He did have a personality, so he's like, "Well, what about brother?" She's like, "No, I don't want anybody your brother." Go. She's like, "Go call all the neighbors." He's like, "Okay, fine." He rolled over. He And then, he still loved his brother. It was his idea to bring his brother in now, but he said he rolled over because when she said, I don't want Buck. And
I never read it like that. I always read it as an understanding. I mean, Buck is not the kind of guy that you normally trust or would trust with kids. There's no reason to.
And that's what I said about the mother. I mean, as much as she's out of touch with their kids, she has great reason. Because he said on the phone, "Oh, sorry about the bushes in the front. I think they'd all start on fire. Shouldn't have had the barbecue that close to the bushes,
and that's the whole thing. I think it wasn't so much he was a simp. He understands. Buck he's a last resort, and one of the better scenes with the mother is actually when she's listening to him before they leave, and she's like, because she's like, okay, I'm setting him up, but I am so scared to do this. I thought it was a great scene just because it set up the character of Uncle Buck, because, we only really at that point saw him with his girlfriend, and he's kind of like talking about how he likes her, and if he could get out of commitments, he would. So the scenes about him going up and mentioning her, that's just to put the idea in his head. But even the dad doesn't want Uncle Buck or Buck to watch the kids. He understands it. So when she says that, he agrees. And in the end, because he was mentioned, okay, he is our last resort. And then, of course, the scene where she's looking all nervous about the fact that she's leaving, so I'll just leave the toilet up to let the dog get water, that kind of thing. And she's like, you kind of get the feeling that, yeah, this is going to be a bad idea. We're going to go places with it. And that's how I saw those scenes. I didn't see it as a simp or anything like that. He didn't back down out of weakness. He backed down out of understanding that this isn't the guy we want to have watching our kids.
But it's his brother.
Rich white guy problems. I mean,
okay. Yeah, but if I suggested to you that we let my older brother watch our children when we went out for weeks, you would have had the same.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
But he feels that way because his brother.
Right. He mentioned him because it's his brother. It's still family. Yeah.
I'll just say this: ever hear a tune-up?
Ever hear spiritual killing?
I don't get it.
You see, if I see you gnawing on her face in public like that again, you're going to become one. I love that line.
I like the scene, like where Miles and Bucky's like, "Where do you live? In the city. You want to
Yeah.
That made Macaulay Culkin. Based on that scene and the scene later, where he looks in through the mail slot and sees two criminal eyes. Those were the scenes that made Home Alone, by the way. This is an absolutely fantastic movie. It's got a lot of great scenes. Everybody, of course, Johnny's talked about pancakes with that big giant pancake you make it. This movie, no matter, you could talk about the scenes, you could talk about script, you can talk about John Hughes. I'm sorry, but this film was put on the shoulders of and carried by the charm of John Candy, and that's what really makes it. It's John Candy all the way through, man. And you just absolutely freaking want to cheer when he flips the quarter, tells the woman to have a rat gnaw that thing off her face, and then you see his silhouette as he lights a cigar and goes, "Yeah!" and you hear the funky Cole Medina.
Is that an X? Sort of, yeah. I get in my car. I'd like to see it. It's like, you never know when I'm going to need it. It's a situation may come up, for example, as someone has been drinking and about to drive a loved one home. Then I'd like to have, I have it. Not to kill it, just to maim, just to take a little bit off the shoulder. Squish the elbow, slash, shave a little meat off the old kneecap. I
love the look he gives when he got at the end, when he bursts down the door to get to Bug. He's got the drill, and he finds out it's not his niece. But then he turns off the light to turn around, and he just turns up and he gives that smile. And yeah, I love that scene. It's a great freaking flick. All righty, so Venkman, where do you stand on this one?
This is a close, man. We're not doing halves, because I would give it a 4.5. I mean, it's right up there with Planes, Trains, and Automobile.
Well, is a 4 or is a 5?
I'll give it a 4.
All righty, Rob, where do you stand on Buck?
I also give it a 4.
This is a 5. Like I said, the only reason this isn't John Hughes' best is because Planes, Trains, and Automobiles exists. So There you go. Let's see what we've got. You guys were talking about career opportunities. That's with Jennifer Connelly.
The Target scene.
The scene. Okay, everybody mentions the scene of her on the horse. Uncle Buck is Thanksgiving time for me, and I'm definitely making pancakes.
That's funny.
That would be really cool.
But the number one scene in the whole entire movie is the beginning. He's in the closet, and he's like, "Oh, here comes Robo, bowling ball on the head." Every single time I lose it, I'm like, I know it's coming. I'm like, it's gonna carry goes. Like, oh.
Yeah, well, judging by the way we scored things, obviously, you know, Curly Sue and She's Having a Baby didn't make the thing, but it seems like the stronger ones are Uncle Buck, Planes, Trains, and Automobiles, and Breakfast Club. Well, actually, Breakfast Club and 16 Candles, I would have to say tied, and then the weaker ones is Weird Science and Ferris Bueller's Day Off, as far as the scores go and everything. That's well with you there, Rob.
Yeah, that sounds about right. I mean, I think that without seeing the other two, it's hard to give them their fair shake, but it sounds like we already heard what we needed to from you on those. Yeah,
really, there's a reason why we remember the other ones and we don't those two.
Exactly.
That's the truth of it. Well, anyway, gang, there you go. Our little romp through Hughesville, our visit to Shermer, Illinois. And by the way, it's Illinois. Gail will correct me on the Illinois thing, being from Chicago herself. Yeah, Illinois. You guys have been pronouncing it wrong all this time.
Yeah. It's Illinois. Chicago.
Yeah, Gail.
It's Illinois, Chicago, which is Indian for last house on the left.
There you go. And it's not Chicago. It's Chicago. Okay, get it right.
Hey.
I've been living with a woman from Chicago all my life, and that's how I know you say it that way. But anyway,
I bet you're not a Bears fan either, ain't you?
No, not a Bears fan. Anyway, guys, thank you very much for hanging out with us and keeping the conversation going, helping us talk about these movies. Thanks to Rob Classic, and thank you to Venkman for helping scoring these and all. Hope you guys had a good time.
Holy cannoli, that was a lot of fun, eh?
There you go. And as always, thank you very, very much for watching. And remember, stay extreme.
Good night.